Hello, everybody. This is I think it's the 10th call of the Amazon Investor Coalition. I think we're going to have a small group of non-usual suspects because it's a holiday in Brazil, it's a holiday in the United States. A lot of people are off work, but these calls are all recorded and are later packaged for rebroadcast as a podcast series, and then brought to investors all over the world. So the work that we're featuring today, even if we have a slightly smaller audience, will reach a lot of important people in the years to come. This process serves as a partnership platform for the UN 75 Global Governance Forum. We're making a global call to action for collaboration on Amazon. From that event, it will be September 16 through 18. The website is un75globalforum.org. You're all invited. There's no cost. Maybe while we're still waiting for a couple more people to join, we can do, because we have a small, when there are 30 people on the call, it becomes complicated. But because we have a smaller enough group, maybe we can do a couple of introductions. Marina, you'll go last. I'm Jonah with Nexus and the Global Governance Philanthropy Network. Hey, Alex, do you want to say yourself and your name?
Hi, everybody. This is Alexander Rose from GIZ Brazil. I'm working with private sector engagement and Amazon conservation.
Awesome. Ricardo, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. So, hey guys, my name is Ricardo Politi. I'm currently on a sabbatical. I come from the investment technology sector as a venture capitalist and also as an entrepreneur. And during this sabbatical process, I'm trying to engage in interesting causes and things that I feel that I could add some kind of value or eventually even create a venture out of that. So I thank you very much, Jonah, for adding me to this conversation. It's great.
Thanks so much. Lars.
So my name is Lars Lovold, and I am with Rainforest Foundation Norway. And I've been with that organization since 1990, so it's a while.
Marco.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Marco van der Rey. I'm with the Global Reporting Initiative as the Chief Development Officer. And I'm also a board member of Connexus, which Marina is going to talk about tonight, and have a long work with the Amazon for the last 25 years in different capacities.
Great, thanks so much. Stuart, great to see you. Please introduce yourself and give us a minute on your work. You're very new to these calls in a very exciting way.
Hi, everyone. Stuart Cowan, first time on these calls. I'm with a company called Autopoiesis, which works on regenerating communities and economies throughout the world. I also have been the convener of a global action network called the Regenerative Communities Network, hosted by Capital Institute. And the entree for this group is really through my work with the Amazon Sacred Headwaters Initiative, where we're working on ways to get rid of bonds tied to extraction and create a fresh set of bonds tied to regeneration.
Of course, I'm babbling on with it on mute. Hey, thanks so much, Stuart. Jody, who are you? Tell us.
Hi, everyone. Super nice to be here. Jonah, thank you for the invitation. I'm Jody Weiss. I'm a serial social entrepreneur. A long time ago, I was actually on the board of the Rainforest Foundation and have my heart with the rainforest. Now I'm working on a project called True.net, which is helping with decentralized technology and fake news, and working on some other really important initiatives, including a campaign called Stop Ecocide, designed to turn the destruction of nature into a crime against humanity. So happy to share more about that as well.
Everyone who's spoken previously, feel free to post the website of your organization or multiple organizations. They're very relevant. Feel free to post them in the chat area. It'll also go into the log, and we may feature it when we're reading about what's going on in this call in the podcast. So please do that. Gabriel Labate, please.
Thanks, Jonah. My name is Gabriel Labate. I am the team leader of the UN RED program at UNEP. We are a team of about 20, 25 plus people in Latin America, Africa, and Asia. Over to you.
Great. Can you just give us one sentence on the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration?
Yeah, sure. We have a couple of initiatives going on. Well, one is not a unit, but it's a UN system as a whole. This decade, 2021, 2030, will be the UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration. This goes beyond forests, and is, as its name indicates, it's focused on the restoration of degraded ecosystems. In UN Red, we also have another thing running in parallel, which we called the Green Gigaton Initiative, which is a campaign to ensure the first gigaton in investments in forest habitat conservation and restoration between now and 2025. Over to you.
Great, thanks so much. Next on my screen is Irene.
Thank you, Jonah. Thank you, Jonah, for this invitation. I appreciate it very much. And I'm Irene Suarez, and I'm the Nature-Based Solutions co-lead for Nigel Topping, the high-level champion of COP26, and Gonzalo Munoz, the high-level champion of COP25. And I am also leading and supporting the countdown on both nature and food. So it's a true honor to see many familiar faces and be here with you.
Great, thanks so much. I just posted the website to the Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, which is one of the UN campaigns we're going to be highlighting as part of the UN 75 Global Governance Forum. And if Irene, you would like to post about your work as well in the countdown, that'd be great. Luca, if you are there, please, we welcome you to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, hello everybody. My name is Luca Parolari. I am new to the field and this effort, and I thank Jonah for inviting me. I am a physician, MD, PhD in neuroscience, and I am looking now in transitioning to startup with a particular interest in sustainability, whether it may be environmental or social. And so I'm really grateful to be here to hear a little bit more about the work you guys are doing.
Great, thanks so much, Luca. And Alejandro Argumedo, if you're there, you're welcome to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alejandro Argumedo, a native Quechua from Central Peru. And I work currently as Director of Programs and Andes Amazon Lead at Swift Foundation of California. Our work in the region focuses on looking for food solutions to the company crisis that we are facing. Thanks.
Great, thanks so much. And she may be busy with household, but if you're ready, Nina, to introduce yourself, you're welcome to do so.
Hi, thank you, Jonah. I'm Nina Hazel with the Global Landscapes Forum. We're also a consortium member of the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. So it's great to see Gabrielle here. We're mostly known for the forums we do. We just had one on food in the times of crisis in June, and we'll have another one at the end of October, One World, One Health. Together with the CBD on ecosystem restoration with biodiversity focus. And we also do like local, what we call GLFX, local chapters that we support with the global network. The Global Landscapes Forum has about 30 charter members, including UNEP and others. And yeah, I leave it at that for now. Happy to be here.
Great, thanks so much. And again, everyone's invited to post their LinkedIn, the websites of their organizations, campaigns in the chat area. So without further ado, we have Marina Campos, or Maite, who's going to introduce herself. Don't forget a little bit about your personal background. It's super interesting. And Conexus, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jonah. Thank you for this invitation to present today. Thank you everybody who's here, because I know it's a holiday in Brazil, it's a holiday in US, and I don't know about you, but in California, it's 100 degrees. So it's really unbearable. There's smoke outside, so it's just too many things happening at the same time, in addition to all the COVID context that we are living. But thank you so much for being here. My name is Marina Campos. I'm also known in Brazil as Maite. I have worked and lived in the Amazon since 1989. I lived in the Brazilian Amazon for about 11 years. And during the time that I was there, I taught in federal universities. I worked in NGOs and research institutes. And my last incarnation there, I was working for the state of Amazonas government. And I was coordinating the program on protected areas and climate change. We were at the time the first state to have a climate change policy, the first state to have a RED project, the first state to have a payment for environmental services, a mechanism in place. So there were a lot of pioneering when we were there. The past 10 years I have dedicated to work on philanthropy mostly, and I worked for Rainforest Foundation US. So Lars was my partner in Norway. It was a pleasure to work with him. And then after that, I went to work with the Gordon Betty Moore Foundation for about 6.5 years, and I coordinated the portfolio of grants to Brazil. And in great part, my move to Conexus has a lot to do with this past 10 years of being in the philanthropic world, because the philanthropic world is great. You're full of opportunities to be able really to find the nice projects that can have impact. But at the same time, at least in the places that I had worked, we had a lot of problems in trying to find more sustainability for the projects that we were funding. So how we could come up with projects that wouldn't like completely stopped or be derailed once the foundation changed its strategies or once things were happening. So the challenge to work for Conexus was this of trying to find different ways in which we can support community businesses. So the story I'm going to tell today is what we are building in Conexus, and it's great to have Marco here, who is part of our board. And I'm open to any kind of comments and suggestions later on, because Conexus is still an organization that is reinventing itself all the time. So let me share my screen with you. And whoops. Can you see my screen? Let me put in presentation mode. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So despite, as I said, all this very complicated moment that we are living, we believe that there is a future of opportunities ahead of us related to forest and to fields. If we think about family farmers and extractivists in Brazil, and that's a little bit what our inspiration comes from. If you think about, when I say that there's a lot of future, just to give a little bit of an estimate of what is the populations and the impact that I'm talking about. Family farming in Brazil, it's about 10 million people. It affects more than 200 million acres, and it generates about $15 billion per year. When we talk about extractivism in Brazil, it's a smaller sector, but we're talking about 4 million people, 1.2 acres in an economic impact of about $1 billion. And the Amazon is about 10% of that. So we believe there are in Brazil about 300,000 community-based enterprises that would have a lot of potential to grow. And by growing, they have a lot of potential in building a forest-based economy. That's what we need in order to keep the forest standing. What are the challenges that these community-led enterprises have? And actually supporting community-led enterprises is not something new. We've been actually doing this by decades, right? With few successes here and a lot of failures on our plate. So, but just to summarize, especially for the ones who are new to this area, what are the main challenges that one faces when we are looking into community-based enterprises and sustainable development? First, this family farmers or extractivism, they really lack adequate financing. Most of credit lines that exist in Brazil or are not really achieving or being disbursed by this particular public, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Like 0.7% of all this credit line is only going to sustainable activities there. The second bottleneck is that there is a disconnect between these people and the markets. They usually sell to several intermediaries and they have no idea where their products ended up. So it's a very, very fragmented supply chain for a lot of those products. And the other one is that a lot of these community-led enterprises have really, really underdeveloped business plans. A lot of them are created as associations to kind of more to represent rights of peoples or to fight for other issues. And then suddenly they decided to do income generation and to do that. But it's really hard for them to have an idea about how to improve this business plan. So the idea of Conexus was born in 2018. So we are a brand new organization, and the founders of Conexus mostly are Valmir Ortega, whom some of you might know. He used to be with Marina Silva in the government in Brazil, working for IBAMA and working on a lot of the creation of protected areas in Brazil during that period. And also he was the Secretary of State of Environment for the state of Pará. And Karina Pimenta, who comes from another background, she comes from the entrepreneurship background, working for Ashoka and for the Vale Fund, which is one of the largest private funders in Brazil for conservation. So I think the combination of them and other people, we realized that we needed to do something different in terms of like, do we really need a different organization in Brazil? And it was when we started to look of the important role that philanthropy has in terms of being seed capital and being very patient capital for this kind of enterprises, but also the limits that relying solely on foundation resources would have and how it would affect these organizations. So we decided that we had to look beyond each community-based enterprise by itself and more at the ecosystem level. So our mission is to boost what we call the ecosystem business of the social environmental impact organizations, and they usually don't see themselves as social environmental impact organizations, in a way that we can create a more inclusive economy and at the same time conserve forests and biomes. So what we are calling community-based, community-led enterprises or community businesses is what we are calling cooperatives, associations, and even some small enterprises, businesses as well. So Conexus is actually a global network of different social entrepreneurs. Our base is in Brazil. We have offices we are a very decentralized organization. We have offices in Belém, Brasília, Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, and Curitiba. And also we have 2 international offices. We just created in May of this year, Conexus US, which is an American arm of the Conexus Brazil, and I'm happy to talk about that. And the network of Conexus, which is important for you to understand, it complies the Institute Conexus, which is all I'm talking to you about it, the Institute Conexus USA, that's the one I lead, as well as the Conexus Fund. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Conexus Fund later in my talk. So as I said, we are an ecosystem by itself. So we have the US arm, we have the Brazilian arm, and the Conexus Fund. And the difference is the US arm is really to be the liaison between the United States and the work in Brazil, to build those international partnerships, certainly to fundraise, but more importantly, how we can exchange knowledge and experiences in other countries and adapt them to Brazil, and how we can open markets for some of those products that we are working in Brazil as well. The Conexus Fund, on the other hand, is a hybrid finance vehicle that is related to the development of social and environmental impact businesses, and is now actually created as a separate entity from the Conexus Fund. Is a private enterprise in Brazil that is owned by the Institute Conexus. During these 2 initial years, we did about 17 pilots of creating an array of different kinds of loans, guarantees, and other financial instruments that were actually appropriate for the reality of the community-based enterprises. So we believe that to work with those organizations, you have to have a threefold strategy, which is working on the business development, helping them access markets, and at the same time, providing appropriate finance that actually are related to the realities that they have. So it is really this triad or this tripod that actually makes those business-led enterprises flourish. And you cannot work with one without the other. And not necessarily Connexus has to do all these different pieces. If we have partners on the ground and rely a lot on partners on the ground that can help with some of these pieces, this is great. So our first initiative as a brand new organization was called Desafio Connexus, or Connexus Challenge, as we called, which we wanted to understand, we wanted to map, connect, and boost all this ecosystem. So our first thing was like, okay, we talk about community-led enterprises. How many of them are? What kind of characteristics they have? Who are part of these organizations? How much money do they make? So we created a mapping of community businesses in our it is in our website. It's an open tool. You can just go there, access, see how if you can actually do it by searching by different kind of keywords or anything. So it's a platform open for existing products. And then we did the acceleration journey where we got a lot of organizations and tried to really improve their business model and work with them to partner with other organizations. We did business modeling, financial solutions, all to say that in these 2 years, we created a lot of labs and we did a lot of learning by doing with a little bit of our, what we call a DNA startup that we feel we have. And to really think about what's working, what's not working, what are the main bottlenecks that we can act on at the ecosystem level in particular. So I'm not going to go into all the results we have had in these 2 years. I'm happy to share with anyone our activities report, our biennial report. I have that in Portuguese and in English. So if anyone wants, I'm happy to send it later. And I'm happy to talk to anyone else in more details. But what I would like to highlight here is the mapping that we did. But most importantly, we touched these organizations in many ways in terms of improving business modeling and other things. But I would say that one of the key issues here was actually connecting with the demand side and looking for something that we call the Business for Earth movement, which was like, okay, what is really the true interest of companies based in Brazil, not necessarily just Brazilians, in terms of buying products from these particular actors, these particular organizations? Is there really a demand for these products or there isn't? So, and when we put the idea out there and we asked different companies to register into our surveys and things, we were blown away by seeing, we actually expected that we would have about 20, 30 companies that would come back to us. And we had actually 82 companies saying that they purposely would like to buy products from family farmers or from extractives, either because of their social impact or because of, or because of the environmental impact too. And so far we have bridged, or we act as a broker for 25 deals that have happened so far. But we believe that there is still a lot of opportunity in Brazil. And probably the greatest opportunity in Brazil is something called PRONAF, that I'm not really sure if all of you know, but PRONAF is an acronym from a national program for family farmers in Brazil. So PRONAF was created in 1996, so it's a public policy, and every year PRONAF has a budget of $5 billion for family farmers and extractivists in Brazil. However, there are several problems with this. One, the family farmers, activists, and extractivists sometimes don't even know that this credit line exists. Sometimes they even think that, oh, it's too impossible, it's too bureaucratic, it's very hard for me to get access to those resources. And sometimes the bank, on the other hand, are like very scared, like, oh, these organizations they can default their loans and not pay me back. And also they actually lack the technical expertise to really create like a risk analysis, or they know how to do risk analysis for soy, for cattle, for corn, for all those traditional crops, let's put it this way. But it's really hard for them to think about risk analysis for harvesting Brazil nuts, for example, right? So what really we are focusing on the next years going ahead is how we can green this Pronaf loans from the bank. And why we are focused so much on these loans in particular, not only because we're talking about a huge volume of loans, as I said to you, it's $5 billion per year, but also these are really subsidized credits with very, very low interest rates and really, really generous payback timeline. So this is a really great thing. So what we really want to see is seeing like more and more of the money being dedicated, of the money of Pronaf being invested in sustainable agriculture and sustainable extractivism by these organizations. So how does it work as a whole? And I try to condense a lot in one slide, but I hope you can bear with me. So what I was explaining to you is that we have the Connexus Fund, right? The Connexus Fund is a hybrid fund, is a blended financial instrument that we created that we can give loans. So what we have, we receive money from concessional capital, venture philanthropists, and commercial capital. We are currently, we currently fundraised about $2 million this year for the fund. So the money goes to the fund, and the fund then creates really appropriate loans in terms of the scale of the loans, in terms of the interest rates that are going to these organizations, which are low, but not as low as the ones given by the Pronaf in Brazil. And also we create guarantees, which has seemed to be really good. We go to the bank together and we negotiate the loans together, and we say, okay, bank, if you don't have that, if they don't pay, we will pay. We are de-risking this whole opportunity. And on the other hand, once they decided that they want to receive the loans and the assistance and the loans from the fund, they have the commitment to receive our business assistance and to be working with us. And we see that our capital that we give, and the capital that we give is, to give you an idea, it could be something between $5,000 to $50,000 is the maximum we give. So we're talking about really very small transformative loans that first of all help them teach or how to deal with loans and how to pay back and how to create a business plan, and really prepare these organizations to be able to have also all the legal documents and everything they need in order to access the credit loans. So what we are doing now is working with the banks, and we have already a contract with the bank, Banco da Amazônia, which is the Amazon Bank, which is not the BNDES, which is not the Amazon Fund, is a public bank in Brazil, is the one that gives all this Pronaf credit lines in the Amazon. And we created with them a system that we are calling credit enablers. So after we had done, as I said to you, the 17 prototypes we created, we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we bring this to scale? How can we find a way? And we said, okay, what we need is to create this entity, which is a credit enabler that is between the community enterprises and the bank, and is really the broker, but is really someone on the ground working on making this loan and this financial arrangement happen. And this person gets paid by the bank, gets paid by the credit that by any kind of deals that he or she can close, but more important, they get paid if there is a repayment loan, they get bonus. So it is in his or her best interest to make this whole thing work and work well, because there is an economic incentive that this person could receive by not only closing the deal, because this is supposedly not the hardest part, but paying it back and helping during this time to have the organization improve in terms of their financial education is crucial. So our idea and our contract with the BASA would allow us to have about 70 of these credit enablers distributed to all over the Amazon until the end of next year. And just to kind of go into my final remarks, I think what's something very different about Connexus and other organizations that work in this sector, and that's our partners, so I think everyone has a very important role into this, is that, as I was saying to you, Connexus work as an intermediary organization. But the major differences are that we look for a systemic approach. We find solutions or we find bottlenecks, but then we look how we can apply that systemically and how we can scale the solutions. And also we share risks. We share risks not only because of the time and everything we dedicated, but there are also some financial risks that we take together, financial and reputational risks that we take together with them when we take loans and we are signing contracts with banks. So it's a really a very, very close partnership that we built. Even though we are very young, we only have 2 years, we have already received 2 very important recognitions. The first one was the Prêmios Latinoamérica Verde, which gave to the Connexus Challenge as one of the best products in Latin America of last year. We were one of the 11 projects selected. But also very importantly, we receive a recognition of the Connexus Fund as a very promising green financial tool. So what happened is that with now in partnership with the Climate Policy Initiative, CPI, we just are going through the final stages, and we're going to present during the virtual climate week that would have happened in New York. We had received 6 months of guidance and mentoring from people from all over different institutions, ranging from IFC to think tanks and other organizations, about how actually the fund can grow and what would be the business plan for the fund itself. So with all this mentoring, we're going to be presenting to investors and other potential supporters how we can improve and scale the fund in the future. But the idea is to get to 2030 with at least I'm trying to now calculate in English, in dollars, $5 million. That would be that. So as you can imagine, and like any other organization this year, we were impacted by the COVID, and we had to change our strategy pretty quickly this year. So what we did is we created an emergency plan, a COVID social environmental response plan. And it's very important for you to know that this plan was not created only by Connexus, but Connexus created this plan in partnership with the leadership of CNES in Brazil, which is the National Council of Rubber. They used to be called National Councils of Rubber Tappers, now called the National Councils of Extractivists, and also Unicafes, which is the umbrella organization in Brazil for family farmers. And was the seed money for the plan came from the Vale Foundation. So at the beginning of the year, when COVID starting to hit, we made a lot of surveys asking our partners how would that impact their businesses and how we could help them in order to respond or to mitigate the impacts that they were going to have. So then we created the social environmental plan. I'm happy to also share with anyone who has more interest in, but the plan has 3 pillars. One is strengthening the financial aspects of them, like the business plans, connecting them with markets, and now even more than ever, there's the whole plethora of e-commerce. But more importantly, how these organizations could exchange information in terms of what's working, what's not working in this new context, and learn with each other in a way that they could be exponents. So here's some of our major funders so far. We have several traditional foundations in Brazil, as well as foundations in US and Europe. And we have our partners, we have several of them on the ground, but we also partner with Amazonia 4.0 that some of you might know, the Bank of Amazonia, as I said, and several other organizations in Brazil. And I will stop here. I know there was a lot of information, but I hope it gave all of you at least a little bit of a taste of what we are doing and where we're going in the future. And thank you again, Jonah, for giving us this opportunity.
Marina, thank you so much. I know that I have a lot of questions. It's very exciting, but I'll open the floor for others. Does anybody have questions for Marina? Feel free to go ahead and ask.
Yeah, I haven't looked anything on the chat, so please ask the question directly.
Hi, Maite.
Yes.
It's Ricardo here. So it's great to connect with you again.
Yes, thank you.
It's been a while. Congratulations on this new initiative. Sounds very exciting and promising. Let me ask you something.
Sure.
So you guys have an office in Palo Alto, right?
Yes.
The office is in Palo Alto. Is it because you live there, or is there any kind of like technology edge? That's what I'm interested in learning more about it. And also, this business is 100% non-profit, or if there is any kind of, for-profit with dividends model in terms of the fund. So is it only like venture philanthropy? Is it, how do you pitch this kind of, this fund for the investors that you guys have?
Okay. To answer your first question, I was living already here in Palo Alto, but I think also Palo Alto is a really great place to be in terms of entrepreneurship, as you said, because of all the technology and innovation that happens here. And I think we're going to do a lot of ecosystem cross-learning from one to the other. So I think it is here because it should be here in terms of what we do in Brazil as well. And I think there's a lot of opportunities, and I'd love to talk to you about technology now, because we are just starting to build a business intelligence platform for these businesses in Brazil that goes way beyond being an e-commerce platform, but connects a lot of data, connects a lot of stakeholders, and I'm happy to talk to you about this some other time. So the way that the Connexus Fund is right now, we have some funds coming from philanthropy, and some fundings come from even philanthropy, but they are reimbursable, but we have to pay them back. So for example, we will have to pay funds back for trying to make the calculation, $1 million, for example, we will have to pay back in 2 years. And there's a lot, one of the ways the contract was also done and established is also an investment per impact. So we've set a lot of targets, and if we, let's say, accomplish all targets or some of these targets, then there is a reduced amount of money that we would pay back, because they would see, okay, you guys paid in part in impact, and impact you pay as money back. So, but the way the fund is scaling now, and that I said, we just had our last round of discussions with our investors in Brazil, and we're going to have next week with the international investors within the CPI. We are creating a FIDIC in Brazil, and there's a lot of trenches for investors and investments. I'm happy to explain to you in more detail later, but we are going to be open it will be impact investors, of course, not the general kind of investors you would find there, but there would be a lot of options and opportunities there as well.
Got it. And just one last quick question regarding the community-led enterprises. How do you guys curate them? Does it come from the challenge that you guys did a few years ago, or?
Yeah, a lot of them come from the challenge that we did, and from also knowing partners of them on the ground. That it's, as we said, is really important if they have someone that's like next to them or working with them in a daily basis than other ones. And when we had all these different activities, which is something important to know, is that we decided not to work with the most advanced community-based enterprises as well. We created a methodology in which we assess in which state of the business these organizations are. Are they to a point that you really need a lot of hand-holding and a lot of teaching, a lot of mentoring for them to really develop and improve? Or is just a little bit of impact or a little bit of mentoring that can really flourish? So we created a whole methodology that we assess the business with them, and we see what the gaps are, and we work on this together. So again, we created some methodologies and things. I would say the idea about working with these businesses is not new. I think what's new is looking at them at scale, having a fund that can give to them the resources that they need in the format that they need. So far, we have had, everyone had paid back 100% of what they had paid. Some people even paid back earlier. For example, the very first forestry community-based enterprise in Brazil in a structured reserve, which was community forestry, selling timber, like sustainable managed timber. It was the first time that we were able to make this connection with the bank for them to get a loan that was much cheaper for them. So they were able to, her profits increased 30% just because of that. So the idea is how we can unblock this very potential mechanism and other things. Marco, feel free to also add anything you want to either what I said or to any of the answers to the questions, because you know for the next as well as I do.
Yeah, maybe just to add, because I think the point is interesting, Ricardo, what you mentioned. I think the whole idea of Connexus was that, first of all, Marina keeps on saying that we're very young, but I think there's a lot of people with a lot of experience in Connexus.
Yes.
First of all, that makes it different, because it's a series of 30, 40 professionals that have worked for 15, 20, 25, 30 years with this issue in the Amazon. And I think one of the main sort of challenges that was seen is, and that what sort of like made it put together this organization was, we've been doing pilot programs in the Amazon ever since the program was there in the early 90s, mid 90s. And every new project was just another pilot. Even the Amazon Fund in itself was actually only sort of funding pilot projects, and only later sort of started looking at a more strategic way of how to integrate different types of projects. And I think Valmir, of course, as a driving force behind the organization, but with this whole group of 30, 40 people, we really tried to sort of set, okay, how can you create an organization that actually starts to tackle that main issue, is where you go away from all those pilots. There's enough organizations who do those, who can do a project, who can support a community, who can help an association, or can help a few, but there's no one who actually takes the next level, whereby actually all these products that come out of those community-based enterprises in one way or another to the market. And I think that's exactly the link that Connexus is trying to build through all those processes, and thereby accelerating actually the viability of all those enterprises and the sustainability of all those enterprises. Because as we all know, the crisis in the Amazon is big, and we really need to accelerate. So in sort of like having Connexus as a I don't want to use the word oil, but oiling the engine of all these enterprises. We have to find a different word for that in our new renewable economy.
Oil, you know.
Unrenewable.
I'm going to go ahead and ask a quick question, and then.
You're in mute.
Of course, I'm going on. Thank you. I'm going to ask a question, and then I see that.
Mute again.
I'm sorry. I see that Marco's asked a question. I also see that Alex and Jody have come off of mute, so you guys can follow me after Marco. Or, sorry, after Lars. I think it was Lars. Yeah, Lars.
I'm good. I made my comment.
Okay. So a quick question for me. I know some people want to put, I had a phone conversation on Friday with someone who wants to put $50 million into the Amazon, but is having problems finding the right match because they care so much about carbon accounting. So it's a double question. One, could you guys, what would be your plan to absorb a $50 million investment? Second, is there a, I mean, de-risking $5 billion in Brazilian money with Pronaf, you know, that's a large matching opportunity. And then secondly, do you guys have a metric to account for the amount of avoided deforestation that happens as a result of scaling some of these businesses?
Mm-hmm. Excellent questions, Jonah. As any investors, they want to say, okay, I'm paying, how much carbon am I going to get back? Or how many people are we affecting? So we received like a very special support from a foundation in Brazil called Fundação Arimax, who is helping us to create the monitoring and impact platform that we're going to have. We are building this because what is a little bit tricky with us is that we are talking about, we don't work with individual farmers, right? Our unit is actually the association or the cooperative. So we're trying to then create a methodology that you don't have to go one by one on their communities. And we are partnered with the Terras app. I don't know if you are familiar with the Terras app in Brazil. The Terras app is created by Carlos Souza, who works for who is a senior researcher at Amazon in Brazil. And Carlos is really I would say the guru in Brazil for any kind of GIS monitoring that you want. So TerraZap is already hired by the public banks in Brazil to see if when someone, either like small, medium, large landowners, when they request a loan and they are using the TerraZap in order to see if the loan is being used for whatever the person said it was going to be used. So they already have a contract with the banks doing that. And what we are doing is adjusting the methodology that he has for what we need to do in because as I said, we don't do one farmer by one, we do collective work. So we hope that by, I would say until June of next year, we will have the monitoring, tool very refined in order that we can come out with those answers for you and for investors in particular, much more clear. We think this is key, and this has to be very transparent. This has to be on website. We have to be careful with like transparency of some data that might be sensitive. But anyway, we are thinking about this, what impacts in terms of carbon, but also what are social impacts that we are receiving as well, in addition to income generation and other things. So, but thank you, because this is very important.
Lars?
Thank you so much, Marina. That was a very, very interesting presentation. What struck me most was the approach to the enormous public sector in Brazil. I mean, Pronaf and all the sort of the rural credits. In the Rainforest Foundation Norway, we tried way back to influence the huge spending for indigenous education, for instance, in health and so on and so forth. You know, there are so large public budgets that in general for forest-based communities, for vulnerable populations, either it doesn't reach there or it comes there in the wrong form. So I found it very encouraging and innovative to really try to establish a relationship with this public sector rural credit and try to influence that, because it's, as you said, the amounts are way beyond any normal philanthropy or NGO activity or whatever. So to the extent that you can actually convince them that this is profitable, that this is good for business as well as for society, as well as for development, I see huge potential. So I think that was really interesting. Could you say something more, elaborate a little bit more about this interaction?
Sure.
With the public sector?
Sure. Thank you, Lars. It's nice to see you again. What we're doing actually now is creating an alliance of financial institutions in Brazil. So it's not just BASA, the Banco da Amazônia, that is interesting. Banco do Brasil, as well as Banco do Nordeste, as I was saying at the beginning, we work at the scale of Brazil. We have a strong focus in the Amazon. We all worked in the Amazon at some point. Most of our donors focus on the Amazon, but we really try to look at Brazil as a whole. And there is, as a surprise, a lot of interest in the bank sector to do this and to try to green it. And they just don't know how. And I think when you came to a solution and told them that this could happen, I think it was a really good thing. And you have to think as a public policy, and when they can't fulfill in giving this public policy to all smallholders and extractivists, they have to report to the Federal Prosecutor's Office of why this is not happening. Every year they have to explain why this is not happening. And I think they saw two things. I think first they saw an opportunity to actually do this and improve. And the second one is to see an opportunity that they could actually be complying with the law better. But I would say not all the banks have the same responses. I would say, within the partners that we have now, the bank BASA, the Amazon Bank, has been the most open one and the one that's investing a lot of funds, because this credit enablers, at the beginning, they will be paid by Conexus, but they are actually going to be for the first 6 months with philanthropic funds. But after the first 6 months that we are training them, right? They are in the field, but we are training them. And now, unfortunately, we develop a whole distance learning platform in partnership with the Fundação Getúlio Vargas in Brazil, with a professor there that works on online training. We hope next year we can have some face-to-face meetings as well, especially to get all the 70 people together. But I would say that BASA was really the ones who decided to pay and to pay more for this. Like the Banco do Brasil was less interested in this, but I think if the experiences works with the Banco do Brasil, with the BASA, as we hope it will, and of course we'll have to, as I said, do some kind of management as we go. We're going to have to adapt and rethink about a few issues like we have done. But I think it's a very promising time, and I was really afraid that the PRONAF credit line could disappear or could be diminished in the government. There is no sign of that. And as you can say, this is a credit line that exists for 14 years. And no one, this is kind of like the Bolsa Familia. No one would be crazy to touch and change this public policy in the long term, in the long term.
Thank you, Marina. Alex, you have a question.
Yes, I do. Hello, Maite. Nice to see you again. Yeah, I know there's a few Connexus very well. In fact, we had a lot of meetings over the last years. I've been running the project Green Markets, which basically is the same approach, creating market access for sustainable products from community-based enterprise in the Amazon, cooperatives, associations. So I totally agree with Connexus and with Maite. The development has to come through the local people in the Amazon, no doubt about it. About the community-based enterprises, I will spice this conversation a little bit up now. I'm still a little bit, let's say, disappointed because we're looking here at 10 years of Amazon Fund, basically focusing on capacity building for cooperatives. Before that, we had 20 years PPG7, focusing on sustainable use of the forest, strengthening cooperatives and associations. So we basically have 40 years of investments from GIZ, USAID, in cooperatives in the Amazon. And if you look at it today, we have like a handful or 10 cooperatives who are basically references, examples, basically the same ones who have always been receiving public funding from cooperative projects or from other foundations like ECA, like Copa Acre, and they have been doing fairly well, but also because they have been receiving this huge support intensely. And most other cooperatives are basically broke, or they have credits they haven't paid back, or they can't get structured, or they change every year their presidency. So after 40 years of investment, basically, we see very little strengthening of these cooperatives. And if I look at the numbers, for example, organic producers in Brazil, we don't see an increase in sustainable use of the forest. We see an increase in land grabbing, in soil farming, and cattle ranching. So on the one hand, yes, I agree with Connexus. We need to strengthen the local farmers, smallholders, but on the other hand, there's a very strong side we have to tackle. So land grabbing, cattle ranching, and illegal cattle ranching doesn't move on. So the approach maybe has to be more inclusive or integrative, I suppose. I will let the other colleagues talk before we're running out of time. This is just to spice the conversation up a little bit.
Can I just say something?
Sure, go for it.
I will try to be quick, but Alex, thank you. I'd love to talk to you about this in greater detail some other time. But I think, as I said, you have to have both. You have to have people working on the drivers of deforestation, on transparency of supply chains, on land grabbing, and all those issues. But at the same time, you have to have someone really building this forest-based economy. Otherwise, if you just have this, you are just postponing the destruction of the Amazon, because one way or the other is going to happen. So you have to have both. We are not meant to do everything. We are meant to do one part of this whole complex matrix of problems, and that's what we're trying to do well. So I acknowledge that there's a whole a series of other issues that has to happen in order for this to be correct. And in terms of thinking about the 40 years of investments in community-based enterprises, it was really disheartening for us as well, because there are a lot of investors ready to put millions and millions of dollars, and where are the projects? Where is it? What's your pipeline? And it's terrible to say that, as you said, it's a handful of really mature organizations that we have. And I would say probably two things that contributed to that, and in my opinion, and then I'm talking more about as Maite than as Conexus, and let me take the hat off. I would say it has to do with the fact that there was not a strategy, a system level strategy. We were looking at project here, project there, project everywhere. So without a systematic approach. So I think that's one of the things that contributed for a success as a whole. And the second one is we have to be smarter about using philanthropic funds and funds that comes from donations. These funds at the same time that they can create great opportunities, they also can create a disincentive, right?
1 minute, Marina.
You get now and you get next year and you're gonna get it again. And I don't know, it's just 2 cents for my contribution there. I'm sure there are way more complex problems, sorry.
Okay, just in the interest of time, I can go past the top of the
Thanks,
hour if
Marina.
others can. Jody, you're next, and then Hank. Okay, Jody, do you have a question?
No, I'm going to pass. A lot of it was
Okay.
answered. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hank, if you're there.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hank from the United States. And I've been working a lot on international development work and innovation. 2 quick questions. It sounds like there are a lot of PPP there, public-private partnerships. And my question is, how you normally incorporate the innovations like small businesses and in technology in your role? I know there are a lot of smaller incubators focusing on sustainability and those work. How you normally incorporate and activate those relationships. And my second question is related to gender equality. A lot of things is a lot of multilateral, you're leveraging a lot of multilateral funding mechanisms. So for a lot of international development agencies, including the new ones like AIIB, USAID, IDB, they're putting a lot of emphasis on gender empowerment. How do you normally monitor that, especially within your in your MEL plan, like monitoring and evaluation? So those are my major questions, but I'm more than happy to add more details as needed. Thank you.
Sure. I'm happy to talk to you, Hank. I will try to answer those pretty quickly because I know we are running out of time. So in terms of I'm going to answer the last one first. So in terms of gender equality, this is one of the things we'll be monitoring. This is a field that you have, it's in most of community-led enterprises, they're male dominant, but not all of them. But not only we're going to have an emphasis on trying to look for female enterprises, but also youth. We think that the youth has a very important role in keeping this community-based enterprises, especially the youth who went to the city in order to get better educated and go back and really feel disconnected from what's happening in the ground. So I think that's it has a great potential to engage the youth. And we're gonna actually have probably a project with Synergos on this issue. And then in terms of project, public and private partnership, I actually don't remember what was the question, sorry. Hank, could you ask again?
No, it's just more a comment how you normally activate the networks with the innovation incubators, the people who can provide you or supply some innovative ideas to help you to, to capitalize on some of the solutions. Yeah.
In Brazil, we worked with 2 main partners that helped us a lot in terms of methodology and incubations, which was the Seed Semente, which is a startup for urban issues in Brazil, for urban tech issues. And but they adapt a lot of their methodologies for the rural issues that we needed in Brazil and for the audience that we had. And we also worked with another organization called Become, which comes from people that worked for Natura in the past, which were the main helper us to bridge us with the private sector in terms of companies in Brazil. So that's a quick answer for that. But we're really looking for any other partners that can help us in technology. As I was saying, we are starting to create a business intelligence platform, which is the idea about how we can connect different kinds of information. It's not supposed to be an e-commerce platform, it goes beyond that. And the main reason for that is to create and give visibility for the people and for the businesses that are happening on the ground. I'm happy to talk about this in another opportunity.
Great, thank you so much for your time and answers.
We are at the top of the hour, so some people already have to go. For those who are willing to stay, you're certainly welcome to do so. I know that Marco had another comment.
Yeah, just last point is, well, first of all, on the innovation side, I think it's also important to note we work together with CERTI from Florianopolis, which is probably one of the top accelerated programs and technology innovation programs linked to the University of Florianopolis. Very good entity in Brazil. I wanted to answer Alex as well on the point of 40 years, and I think that was coming back to my earlier point. It's really, I think Connexus was born out of the frustration of actually exactly that same point of having 40 years of investment coming from multilaterals, bilaterals, philanthropy, not leading to anything, probably too much of existentialistic relationships as well in one way or another between NGOs and communities, and unfortunately not dealing with the systemic market issues and the systemic relationships issues. And I think that's where we're really trying to get around, both on the financing side as well as on the product to market relationship.
Great. Others? I have a couple of questions.
No, thanks, Marco. Thanks for your comment. I really appreciate it. Of course, in 40 years of learning too, and the approaches are getting more sophisticated, and it has to be an all-integrative approach. And what you're doing with Connexus is really great. I mean, and it has to be through local people. I agree totally. But the entire problem, of course, when we take a look at the entire Amazon, is pretty complex. So we really need to find a complex solution as well. Mm-hmm. But that's why we have Jonah for.
Exactly.
I will say that part of our strategy, so on September 16th through the UN 75 Global Governance Forum, we're going to be presenting a new website to the world, amazoninvestor.org, where we're going to be looking in detail at probably 20, 30 different partners and encouraging the global capital markets and philanthropists to pay attention to them. Some of the programs of Connexus are going to be cited there. Our strategy is separated in two. One is really separated in four. One is about impact investing, mapping the opportunities and figuring out what could be the opportunities in the future. The four-part plan is: one, impact investing; two is carbon market strategies, carbon market innovation; three is rule of law, and that complements. You can't have smart land innovation and development with so much illegal land titling or land grabbing, or as they call in Brazil, guerrilhagem going on. And then the last strategy is a global investor education campaign where we take the knowledge from the previous three parts and we bring it to the sovereign wealth funds and the pension funds. So I do think that we need a global approach. I think this is a global problem, and it was exciting to see so many international actors show up for this call.
And if I can just add something on the innovation part, especially because Hank stayed in the call, we also partnered with the Amazonia 4.0. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the initiative that they have, and we are applying jointly for a grant at IDB this year for $750,000. So the Amazonia 4.0, which I actually encourage you, John, I'm happy to make the bridge for them to present here, because it's a very innovative way of how you use high technology in Brazil to really boost the forest economy. So they have so they're going to have creative labs and itinerary labs with different organizations. They're going to look into how to really use the power of technology to improve businesses and economy in an inclusive economy in the region, and we will be working with them. This is led by Carlos Nobre, who is a very well-known climatologist in Brazil, and his brother Ismael Nobre, who was in the transition government and almost made it to the Ministry of Environment in the Bolsonaro administration, but he ended up not doing it. So.
Others have questions? Go for it. I have one. Go ahead, Alex.
Just on your comment on on impact investment. I've been dealing with some impact investors over the last years for the Amazon, and we basically acknowledged that it was a mismatch for this kind of target group, like community-based enterprises, which are very simple cooperatives, associations, and let's say really traditional impact investors whose ticket begins at $3, $4, $5, or $10 million. They come with a lot of requirements. So I think one important job for us, or probably for you too, you're closer to the investors, maybe these investors need to adequate or lower their requirements and expectations when they're going to talk about the impact investment in the Amazon. What's working is what Connexus is doing, what the PPA is doing, Platform Parceiros da Amazônia, with small tickets, 50, 100, 200,000 reais, with blended finance. That's really working for this crowd. But the big traditionals, they come with a long list of requirements. It doesn't usually work for this target group. Maybe for big companies, like Natura, but they don't really need it. They don't need an impact investor, really. So maybe this is an important approach to re-educate the impact investors. This is the challenge, and you need to lower your criteria and your requirements to create a match here. My 2 cents.
I think, Alex, you're absolutely right.
Maite, I have a question, and that's about the material available about Connexus. Though I'm on the website, I don't see a link to an English translation page.
I'm working on it.
Okay. Second thing is
we do have our activities report in English. So
you sent to me the a presentation, a PowerPoint that you shared before. Can I share it on here?
Sure, I'm happy to send the presentation too for you, and you can send to the folks.
Is it the same one you sent me previously? Or is it
this is a slightly different.
Okay.
The one I gave you now.
Okay,
the one I just gave now.
Irene in particular, who's working with TED, it's in the comments. She was seeking it out. TED has a lot of investors.
Yeah, we are working a lot of that. I mean, I think one of the things that the COVID time gave to us is some time to breathe and think about the institution. And we are building now all this communication materials because we were so crazy on the field, doing everything and making everything happen, that now we are looking a lot of what's happening internally as well. So we have our board, we created the Connexus US, and then the documents will come. But I'm happy if there's anything else, I mean, that anyone needs in particular, but I would say that the website should be ready in 1 month, the latest.
Alan, you joined our call a little bit late. Would you like to ask a question, maybe introduce yourself?
Sure, I'll just introduce myself. Alan Lauch, joining from Portugal, and I'm involved in a few different tokenization projects around impact investment. We've focused on keystone ecosystems like mangroves and also looking at obviously the Amazon rainforest. We have a few different projects there at different stages. You know, a project that is sort of pre-certification, and also a very large project that's already certified. So the idea is to democratize natural capital investment. I'll put my email on there, but I'll join next week again, and we can have a
that'll be great. Thank you.
But yeah, thanks for the invite, Jonah. This is super relevant, and yeah, really look forward to learning more from you guys.
I sent out an email blast a little bit more than a week ago talking about these phone calls to investors within Nexus community, and 83 new people signed up to join the call. So I think we'll have a larger audience moving forward. It's exciting. Any more questions about this process or Marina or others? Please, not all at once. I love that. I've played that joke many times. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to leave the chat room open for a little while because one of the things I don't like about Zoom is that it always closes whenever the room closes, whenever the chat closes, whenever the conversation's over. There are a lot of email addresses and web links there. I encourage you guys to copy it. Thank you so much for joining the call. Same place, same time next week. Feel free to invite friends.
Thank you so much, Jonah.
Good to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jonah.
You bet.
Thanks, Jonah.
Jonah. Marina.